All right, welcome to Transforming with Jeremy and Ellie. We have a fantastic show for you today. How was everyone's New Year's? Was it good? Type yes in the message box if it was good.
Woohoo! Type yes. Come on.
I know I had a great New Year's. Pretty low key. Not a tons of yeses coming in. I love it. And I hope you guys are fired up to make some solid changes in 2016. Ellie, how was your New Year's?
Dude, I got to tell you, my New Year's was absolutely fantastic on a level that you can't even understand. And it was not partying. I was asleep by 10:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I promise. You know, we have a 5-month-old baby. But you know what I spent most of my New Year's Day doing was responding to messages on email and on my Facebook page about our show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and one of the main things that they were telling me was, Ellie, we love your story. We know your story, but we don't know Jeremy's story. We don't know about Jeremy, and I don't know if you guys know or not, but Jeremy was not always as studly as he is now, guys. Okay, I can promise you that. So, Jeremy, everybody wants to know about your transformation. Some people don't even know you had a transformation, man.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that people get to know you. They know my story. It was the first episode we had on. Tell us about you. Tell us about your non-studly days. You know, the whats, the whys, and the hows. We're ready to hear, man.
All right. Well, I grew up pretty overweight. I was a chubby kid. If you were to look at my family tree, it's filled with every ailment and health risk and health, everything. I really take after my father's side of the family. He's a large man. All of my aunts and uncles on that side are large people. And so weight has always been something that I struggled with. Even growing up, I was a chubby kid. I have distinct memories of being in like junior high, having food thrown at me at the table, being called, fat, all this stuff. And so it really has been something that I grew up with, and it was kind of the only way, being big was really the only thing that I knew. And I got married at 19, and at that time had a pretty active job, but my wife was Mexican and a fantastic cook. And I got a desk job after that, and just the weight piled on. It just came on faster than you could imagine. And in fact, with our son, he's now 13, but when my wife was pregnant with our son, I gained more weight during the pregnancy than she did. True story. And so, so I found myself about 10 or 11 years ago now in probably the lowest point of my life, smoking 2 packs a day, massively obese. I was over 300 pounds. I don't know, I didn't weigh myself back then. I was fitness and health was the last thing on my mind. And so I wasn't, it wasn't like I was stepping on the scale going, oh no, another 2 pounds. I just, before you know it, you're big, you're a big guy. And so, it just hit me one day. There were some things changing in my life. I started getting back into music, playing music, and we started getting more shows in Southern California. And I think I had this epiphany moment where I woke up one day and realized, you know what? First of all, you're so much better than this. I am so much better than the way that I was living and the way that I was treating myself, drinking nearly every day. It was a rarity for me not to drink myself to sleep with Jägermeister and Rockstar. Smoking and just eating literally whatever I wanted, on top of having a massive or several massive eating disorders. One of them, a big one, which I'll save for another blab, but was some pretty serious closet eating, where there was a point where I did know I had a problem, and I was very ashamed of my eating habits and was hiding it from, the people that mattered in my life. But one day I woke up and really, it truly hit me like one of those like soul changing type things of, you deserve better than how you're living. And I joined a 24-hour fitness that day. I knew absolutely nothing about anything health and fitness other than I needed to stop eating as much junk. And part of that was the things that I just knew were in my diet that were wrong for me. And I needed to get more active. I'd never lifted weights in my life, and never really even done cardio, but you can look at somebody doing an elliptical or something, and okay, it's pretty simple. You get on there and move your body. The elliptical is the first machine I stepped on, and I actually stayed with the elliptical. I never did a bike. I never did a treadmill. I never went outside. Nothing. I stayed with the elliptical for my only source of cardio, and I did cardio only for the first handful of months, and started changing my diet kind of piece by piece, very similar to our first couple episodes where we're talking about making small changes and changing things. That was me. That's the technique that I took, and part of it wasn't as this conscious effort of like, okay, this is all I can handle. Part of it was I didn't know anything. So my first step was just to cut out regular soda, which I was drinking a 12 pack or more of regular Mountain Dew a day. And I knew that was bad. And I don't think there's anyone on this planet that doesn't know that regular soda is like really, really bad for you.
Some people don't know how bad it really is, by the way.
Correct. They don't know how bad it is, but I think everyone, if they are being honest, knows that it's probably not the best thing for you. And that was the first thing I cut out. And then I started attacking my eating disorders pretty head on, and started really doing some soul searching. And it really kind of was like looking within when it came to the eating disorders that I had, and dealing with it in the moment. When I would start to get urges, when I would start to have these emotional responses come on, where normally I would stuff my face with food, or I started kind of battling it head on, and I didn't always win. It wasn't like this immediate thing where you wake up and your life's completely changed and you don't have any problems or any. No, it's something that is definitely. You got to work on. And I always have been one of those to learn from my mistakes. So rather than to just throw my hands up in the air and be like, oh, I failed again. Oh, I'm a failure. This isn't working, blah, blah, blah. I'm never going to change. I would start to, and this is the same thing I tell my clients nowadays, but start to kind of assess, analyze, go in your head what that was when that event happened and you quote unquote failed or gave in. What was it? Start to look at the actual situation and kind of break it down. And I started just learning from my mistakes and started putting in things in future times when those urges would come back or those emotions would come back that I knew were tied to my eating disorder. I started kind of putting some different activities in place, and it was very successful for me. So
Jeremy, people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they're going to have this question for you as well. I guess it's an interesting question that people have. It's from deep inside to know very simply, how long did it take you? And I have an answer for that, and then I have an answer for that. But I want to hear from you. How long did it take you? And tell us a little bit about whether that really makes a difference, whether how long it takes, how much weight you need to lose, etc. And then, want to get into, go back, because our episode today is really about making one change. And I want to go back and talk about that soda that you spoke about. So tell us a little bit about how long it took you and take us from there.
Okay. Like I said, I started out doing cardio only for a handful of months and actually dropped a tremendous amount of weight. I think all in all, I could say that I lost a majority of the fat that I needed to lose in roughly 9 to 13, 14 months. And the reason why I say that is because I lost tremendous amount of weight doing cardio only for about 9 months. Every day. I did not miss a day. Not a single day in the 9 months did I miss doing cardio. Many times after I got started and started seeing some results, I was doing 2 cardio sessions a day. I have stories of, having driving down the California freeways at 90 miles an hour, knowing that I only had 60-minute lunch break, and I had everything timed down to the minute of, getting to the 24-hour fitness, being able to do 3.5 minutes of cardio or something like that, getting back in my car, and it was just, I had it timed, but I wanted it so bad and knew that it wasn't going to come off on its own. I had to do that. So you could say I lost, the fat in roughly 9 months. Now I still was somewhat chubby, but that's when I really got into weightlifting. I started looking at, fitness magazines and reading blogs and reading all this stuff, and started seeing bodybuilders. And I was like, man, that, that's a whole nother level. That's what I want. And that, again, talking about goals and setting your sights, I started looking at these physiques of these guys that, were just superhuman, and really set my sights to do something extreme with my physique, to take it much further than just getting healthy or losing the fat. And so I immediately started diving into bodybuilding. And kind of dabbling in that, again, not really knowing what I was doing, workouts you find in a magazine and this kind of stuff. And I didn't really do it right. That's why I'm learning from my mistakes and now coaching clients, much differently. If I had to do it with the knowledge I have, I would have done it very differently.
One question for you. What is the one thing, the first thing, I don't know if it was the first thing for you, it was definitely the first thing for me, and I'd be happy to discuss that later. But what is the one thing that you seriously think made a big difference in your weight loss? Forget, before we even get into the bodybuilding part of it, because
sure.
I'm sure that it took you 9 months to get rid of that fat, right? And it was through cardio and through obviously better choices in whatever you were eating. Perhaps you weren't on a diet or what have you. Maybe you were. But what was the one thing that really made a difference in your life that you can see today that you said, man, that one thing really led me, besides all the exercise I was doing, that led me to my weight loss?
Without a doubt, in everything that I am, and I coach this to the day, cutting out sugar, without a doubt. I mean, it's not even a situation where it's like, oh, I think it might have been this, or I think it might have been that. It was the first step of cutting out the actual literal sugar that I was eating, the regular sodas, the candy bars, which we'll save this for another blab, but I have stories of massive candy bar eating, massive candy eating, binge eating on candy. It was cutting that out, that immediate results. I mean, that was, I without a doubt, that was what gave the immediate results. And then, after that, it was starting to look at, educating myself and starting to look at my diet, the things I was eating, and start to dive into what was actually in it, which then once you gain that knowledge, it started taking it further and further and further. But yeah, without a doubt, sugar.
Well, I can tell you one thing also, Jeremy, and this is what our blab is about today. Our episode today is about making immediate weight loss from this one change. And Jeremy just said it. Sugar. The first change that I made, and I've mentioned this in episode 1, was I made a change to stop drinking regular soda. That's it. Period. That was my first change. The first week, the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks. I still ate pizza. I still ate French fries. I still ate burgers. I still ate all fried stuff, all kinds of stuff, breads, et cetera, et cetera. But I stopped drinking soda. I used to drink 2 liters of soda a day. So I know about your Mountain Dew addiction, Jeremy. So you know what? The answer to our immediate episode, we teased you, immediate weight loss from this one change. So we're going to tell you right now, it's cutting out sugar. We're going to delve into it in more detail, speak to you a little bit about sugars. Jeremy is going to go into the science of sugar and what sugar really is. What does it mean? Is it table sugar? Is it that sugar you spoon into your mouth? Is the way food is processed? Can that affect the way that your body assimilates sugar? Jeremy is going to touch upon that. I'm going to touch upon a little later. I have some examples of different foods here with me that I'm going to show you, foods that people think are healthy foods that are full of sugar. Okay, they have the beautiful words about whole grains and all natural and all this stuff, and it's pure garbage. And I'm going to show you some examples, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to throw it back to you, Jeremy, and explain to us a little bit about how the body reacts to sugar, how our bodies metabolize sugar. Tell us a little bit about that in layman's terms. I don't know anything about it. Let's say I'm a 5-year-old and you want to explain it to me in the simplest terms. Go.
Sure. All right. Sugar is a carbohydrate, as you may or may not know. And so your body responds the same way with all carbohydrates. Now, the quality of the carbohydrate, which we could dive into that a little bit if you want, but the quality of that is what differentiates the pace at which your blood glucose level rises. So slower carbohydrates like oatmeal, sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, vegetables, these types of things that do have carbohydrates in them are going to raise your blood sugar level very slowly, which then your body produces insulin to deal with that blood glucose. And so the slower that we can have this process happen, the better it is for our goals, for our health, for our everything. And so when you do have faster carbohydrates, like we will take sugar as an example. Now there's many different types of sugar. We will use table sugar as an example, which is very similar to like the high fructose corn syrups used in soda. Tons of different sweeteners are out there. Even the sugars from fruit, which are technically a fructose, are going to raise your blood glucose at different rates, but it's all going to be fairly fast. And so what happens is you take this sugar in, your blood glucose levels rise, your body produces insulin. Now, where a lot of us get into trouble is that if we tend to be the type that gain weight pretty easily, which I would guess, yeah, me too. And a lot of people I know, even just knowing who some of the people that are on this blab, tend to be in this category as well. One of the characteristics of our body type, endomorph body type, is going to be insulin resistance. Now, all of us are going to have varying levels of insulin resistance, and nearly everyone throughout your life is going to become slightly more insulin resistant as we get older. It's just kind of how our body works. But people that tend to gain weight quickly or have diabetes that run in the family, obesity that runs in the family, we tend to have these genes of being more insulin resistant. And so what happens is our blood glucose levels rise, our body produces insulin, and our cells are pretty resistant to that insulin. So our body produces more insulin and more insulin and more insulin and more insulin. And before you know it, what might have only taken a small amount of time for, let's say, the guy that can eat anything and not get fat, what might have taken him just a very, very small amount of time for his body to produce a small amount of insulin, it is utilized properly going into his muscles and his liver in the form of glycogen being stored for later. All of this stuff happens very quickly. With us that tend to gain weight quickly, us that tend to gain weight quickly, we're resistant to that insulin. So our body just produces and produces and produces, and it puts a major strain on the pancreas. And then also the amount of time that it takes us to process that, it could be anything from a bite of pie to a 2 liter of soda, whatever you're doing, the amount of time it takes us to process that in our system is exponentially longer than, let's say, a healthier, thinner person. And so during this time, our bodies are enabled to burn body fat, and our chances of fat storage are so much higher. And so we are stuck in this place of of gaining weight very, very quickly based on the carbohydrates and, more importantly, the sugar that we're eating, because sugars are going to make this process happen that much quicker. And so the slower digesting carbs that we can eat, the better. But then, staying away from the fast things, table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, all the things that we love, all the things that we want to.
And it's funny you mentioned all the things that we love. And why do we love them? Outside of the fact that they taste absolutely delicious, right? Because it's the first thing, what do kids love? They love candy. Why? Yeah. Why is it? It has a particular taste. It's the tip of our tongue is what tastes really the sweetness, right? So it's the first thing that we taste. But besides the fact that it tastes great, psychologically and physically, it is an addictive substance. And I don't have the source here, and I'm sorry. I was trying to find it earlier this evening. I couldn't find it. But they say that sugar is just as difficult to wean off of as a heroin addict is to wean off of heroin.
I've seen that as well.
And I suggest, I usually don't like to state stuff without my sources. So I suggest that you guys out there go ahead and research it for yourself. But this is absolutely true. I'm not making this up. This is not something to scare anybody. It's the truth. And if you are a sugar addict, whether you are admittedly or not, but you love sugar and you know what that is like, I'm sure that you will agree that getting off of sugar is really like going through withdrawals. And I remember when I stopped having those 2 liters of Coke a day back 8 years ago, massive headaches, bad mood swings. I mean, horrible mood swings. I mean, for the first 2 weeks, I'm sorry for whoever was around me. I was a total jerk. Even to myself, I was uncomfortable with myself. So, sugar and the reason that companies put sugar into stuff is, number one, is they have to sell, right? So how do they sell things? They sell things if they taste good. So there's 2 major things that make things taste good. One is fat, right? Isn't all fried stuff absolutely delicious?
Absolutely.
Right?
Love it.
Nuts. You can't stop eating nuts, right? Peanut butter. This is the fat. So they put fat into it. Low fat stuff. If you grab the exact same product, okay, that is low fat and one that is just the regular original product, if you look at the nutrition labels, you will see that the low fat, obviously the fat is lower, but guess what is increased from the original? Sugar. They need to add sugar in order to make it taste good. Okay? Sodas, sodium and sugar make you thirsty so that you can have more sweet stuff, and it's just this vicious cycle.
Absolutely.
Okay? So if you look at the one major thing out there today in the grocery stores, in restaurants, etc., it's the sweet stuff that gets us. And it's not only necessarily just sweet, cake, etc., because carbohydrates are also a form of sugar, etc. And I don't want to get into the details of that, but the bottom line is, and maybe Jeremy, if you want to touch upon that, that's great. But the idea here is, if we can, and we will help you by the end of this show, we will give you tips on how to wean off of sugar, because that's the idea, is we're here to help you find solutions and not just tell you, well, I already know that. I know what the problem is. So we're here to give you some solutions. And I promise you, we will give you some tips by the end of this show for you to wean off sugar, especially now, the beginning of the year. But sugar, by far, even after my weight loss, and I think, Jeremy, as a professional bodybuilder, I know you've been on stage. I haven't been on stage yet. Hopefully April will be my first time. But you've been on stage, and I know one of the things that, even as a bodybuilder, as an athlete in general, if you want to lose body fat, the one thing you cut out is sugar, carbohydrates. Am I right?
Absolutely. And really, to touch on what you said before, talking about, sugars and other carbohydrates and what's good, what's bad, what's all this stuff, really, and we won't be able to cover all of the knowledge that you'd need in this blab, sadly. It goes much deeper than that on a scientific level. But what we need to start changing our mindset over to is thinking of things not exactly as how much sugar is in it, but how fast is this going to process in my system? That's a much better question to ask yourself, because what a lot of companies are doing when it comes to buying foods, they're marketing things as healthy, and most people would look at the ingredients label on these things and see things like oat flour and all, they'll gluten-free, and they'll put all these fancy words on there to make you feel like, oh, wow, this is really something, like this is going to help me get to my goals. And what we're failing to see is the effects on our body due to the ingredients that are in there. And so even the processing of things that once were a slow digesting carbohydrate are now processing in our bodies at nearly the rate. Oh, Ellie, we lost you. He didn't hear me say that because he's gone. Hopefully he'll come back in. But the processing of this stuff in our bodies can be nearly identical to that of sugar. And I'll give you an example while we wait for him to come back. Oat flour is a prime example. I see all of these. Here he comes. Hey, we lost
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm back. Go on.
Good. And what I was talking about is kind of talking about carbohydrates that are processed and how they are compared to sugar. And so the processing of these carbohydrates can drastically affect the rate at which this blood glucose insulin response happens. And so I'll give you an example. Oat flour is a very popular thing, gluten-free, or can be gluten-free. And it's widely used in a lot of bars, a lot of recipes to replace wheat flour, which there's a scare out there about wheat flour, and I'm not a huge fan about it either, but for several reasons. But we see things with oat flour. We think, oh, it's from oatmeal, so it's healthy. It's got higher fiber, all this stuff. But what happens? The reality is of these these ingredients that are processed in certain ways, they respond in our body differently. And using this, steel cut oats. Has anyone had steel cut oats? If you've had steel cut oats, press yes in the message box. Like our videos, give us props. These things actually help our videos get more popular. Yes, steel cut oats. So people know about steel cut oats. Steel cut oats are about, other than eating the entire whole kernel, steel cut oats are about the largest form of oatmeal that you're going to get. And essentially what they do is they chop the oats like this. Next is going to be rolled oats. And so everyone I'm sure is familiar with, Quaker oats, the Quaker oatmeal, the traditional oatmeal that's been around for 200 years or something like that. Rolled oats are kind of the next step of processing, where the oat is rolled thin. Then many years ago, we started having these quick oats on the shelves. Anybody use quick oats out there? If you use instant oats or quick oats, say yes. No, good. So the quick oats, and if you even look at them, you can physically see a difference between them and rolled oats or steel cut oats. They are essentially shaved. They're shaved thin. They're very, very thin, which when you heat them up, absorbs the moisture quicker. That's the reason why they're quick oats. They don't take as long to cook. But what happens is they break down in our body. The digestion rate is drastically cut down. And so the end result is our blood glucose levels raise much, much faster than even rolled oats. And I'll use old-fashioned oats as kind of the standard because that's the most popular. Old-fashioned oats, and you'll find different numbers out there, but they're all going to be somewhere between around 40 and 50 on the glycemic index. You're not familiar with the glycemic index? It's okay. All it is a number, pretty much from 0 to 100, which rates the glycemic load, or the rate that this whole process is going to happen in your body. Table sugar is the standard that they use. It's 100. They've put table sugar as 100. And so when you see these foods that are like, GI index rating of 20 or 30, it's essentially saying that, it's doing this at a pretty slow rate compared to table sugar that's 100. So you have old-fashioned oats, which are going to be anywhere from 30 to 50, depending on the brand, the way it's cut, all this stuff. 30 to 50 with table sugar being 100. Then you go to quick oats, instant oats. That is up in the 70s, 80s. Then you have oat flour. So oat flour, very popular. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of like, hey, oat flour is great. Oat flour is, again, you're going to see different numbers, between a 96 and a 99.
Wow.
It is literally, within a point or two is really not noticeable. It is going to process in your system at the rate of table sugar. It is highly spiking your blood glucose levels. This massive insulin spike is happening with oat flour, and we use it for all sorts of things, thinking that it's this healthy alternative.
That's great information, Jeremy. That is seriously good information. I actually didn't know that. I know that you had mentioned it to me earlier. You kind of touched upon it, but we didn't speak the details, and I didn't really know that. That's some interesting stuff. And stuff like that is what folks need to know. They need to know that everything that is out there, I hear about pink Himalayan salt. I'm like, that's just salt in a very pretty way. Oat flour, I guess, that's pretty close to table sugar, according to what you're saying on the glycemic level. And it sounds healthy, right? Oat flour. Wow. I would use it. I would definitely use it if I didn't know any better. I do now. I didn't know 3 seconds ago, but right. I know now. And that takes me to some of the stuff that I want to show folks based on what most people think are healthy foods.
Yeah,
right? They would think that it's a great choice for them as far as being healthy, not necessarily on a diet, but I'm making a healthier choice. And folks, I want to make very, very clear that this is not bashing any particular brand nor endorsing any particular brands. Jeremy and I are not endorsing anything right now, and nor are we bashing anything. So I want to make that very, very clear. This is just me giving you some information, Jeremy and I giving you some information that is based on just facts, or you know what, even to be safer, our opinion. How about that?
There you go. It's our opinion. Right. And trust me, if we won't be sneaky and start putting in endorsements. If we ever get endorsed by somebody, which we have 40 people here, so it's not, if we ever get endorsed, you'll see an advertisement at the front of our blab being brought to you by Hyundai.
Right, exactly.
I'll show that off, no problem.
Exactly.
But these are products, these are examples, and
right.
Without a doubt, these are not even they're not even scratching the surface.
Not even close.
Of the examples in your grocery store or in a convenience store, but hopefully you'll get what we're talking about. You'll get the drift of our opinion. And again, I don't want some company to come back to us and say that we were stating these are facts. These are opinions. And you take it for what it is. Let's just say that. So Eli, take it away. Show us what you got.
So I'm going to show you. The first thing here is the famous naked juice. Yeah. Everybody talks about naked juice. Let me read the label here real quick. It says protein. This is the protein naked, by the way. So it says protein zone with other natural flavors, 30 grams of protein. Man, that should be really good. We want to take in our protein. Our protein is very important for muscle growth, to fill us up longer, make us feel more satisfied, etc. Right? Yeah. So, man, this must be really good. Protein juice smoothie. Wow, no sugar added.
Oh my gosh,
it's no sugar added.
Right.
So we must not
drinking those all day long.
It must not have any sugar, right, Jeremy? So let me just tell you how much sugar this has. By the way, another way to read labels, and I know this is really small here, so I'm sure you guys can't see it, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for you. It says nutrition facts. The serving size of here is 8 ounces, but this is not an 8-ounce bottle. There's 2 servings in this bottle. Okay. Yeah. So when you read your nutrition facts, for God's sakes, please be very, very vigilant about. Sometimes there's 3 and 4 servings in one box, one bottle, one package, whatever it may be. Okay.
Exactly.
So when you see something that says it has 10 grams of sugar per serving, the entire bottle could have 40 grams of sugar. Right. Okay. So please be very vigilant about that. Here it says 28 grams of sugar for 8 ounces, which is half a bottle of this naked protein drink. Okay, so you have to multiply that. That's 56 grams. 56 grams of sugar in this one, quote unquote, healthy protein smoothie. Absolutely not a good choice. Really, no. It is not a good choice. And here, again, this is not about bashing naked juice. I don't drink it. I picked it up because I know it's something that people would go into the store and say, man, I'm hungry. I want to make a good choice. I don't want to have, I don't want to grab chocolate milk. By the way, chocolate milk is probably a much, 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 much better choice than this juice right here, to be honest with you. Okay?
Not telling you to grab chocolate milk.
Not
just
telling
saying
you to
that
grab
it's a better choice
milk.
than naked juice.
I'm just saying, yes, thank you for that clarification, Jeremy. So here's a protein juice. You saw that. Now I'm going to grab another naked juice, and I could have grabbed other brands. I just grabbed this because it's the most popular. It's what people really know. Sure. There's Bolt House Farms that was right next to it, etc. But I didn't want to fill up my house. By the way, I'm returning all this stuff tomorrow. Okay, so this is a orange carrot veggies. It says up on the top right here. It says veggies. Right, should be good for you. Our parents told us veggies are good for you. Right, so 100% juice smoothie, 100%, no sugar added. Right. Okay, this is all in the front here, trying to sell us the idea that this is some good stuff. Absolutely. I can promise you this will make you fat. Okay, oh my God, this is one container is a serving here. Okay, so it's just one container. So this bottle has 49 grams of sugar. Okay, I don't remember what a can of Coke has.
Somebody put it in here. 39 grams.
30. Thank you so much, Music Addict. Yes, 39 grams is in a Coke. This has more sugar than a Coke. And I'm sure people are going to come out and say, yeah, but it's natural sugar from the carrots and from the glucose and sucrose and all of the different names that the food companies want to kind of hide what sugar is. And I wrote here so that I wouldn't forget. Sucralose, corn syrup, fructose, pure cane sugar, natural sweetener, right? All of this stuff, guys, all it is sugar. Plain and simple sugar. Really quickly, another thing that I personally used to go to all of the time as my go-to as a healthy snack, especially if I was on the run, if I wasn't, prepared, etc.
Sure.
What is it, Jeremy? Come on. Bodybuilders always talk about having protein.
A protein shake, a protein bar.
Bars, protein bars.
There you go.
So here's a big company, which happens to be a very, very good company, by the way, in bodybuilding, etc. They have some great athletes sponsored and everything that you want. Metarex, okay? This is the Big 100 Colossal Protein Bar. It says meal replacement bar, peanut butter pretzel. I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on. I'm getting old. 30 grams of protein. For instance, the calorie intake in this alone, okay, the good thing here, it says it's a meal replacement. So at least it's telling you that it's to replace a meal and it's not just a snack bar. But it's, it can be very, very iffy. 410 calories just in this one bar, okay?
Crazy.
And there's 28 grams of sugar. A lot of sugar, folks, and this is not from fruits. I can promise you that. Okay, no. So just as a comparison, I also brought a whey protein bar from Gatorade. Right? We trust Gatorade. All the athletes drink it. It must be a great thing. And it says whey protein bar. God, Jeremy and Ellie talk about whey protein. Bodybuilders talk about whey protein. They use it. They're big. They're muscular. They're fit. They're all this stuff. So this must be really good. Full of sugar, folks. And just as a comparison, guess what I brought? And I promise I'm returning it. I swear to you. Snickers.
There you go.
Okay. So just as a comparison for you guys to know, and I'm not saying Snickers is better than any of these other bars, but it's probably just as equal. There's two pieces in here, but this is a big bar. So there's, I don't know if you see my fingers here. So I'm right at the middle. This is actually split into two pieces. Each piece here has 220 calories. So if you add these two pieces up, it's about the same calorie intake as this Metarex bar. And as far as sugar, it does have more sugar. It's about 24 grams per piece. So it's about 48 grams of sugar in here. But if you go back, it's the same amount of sugar as this Naked Juice right here.
Crazy, right?
Snickers, Naked Juice. Now, if I offered you Snickers, right, how many people would say, no.
Right.
I'm not eating that. I'm watching what I'm eating, and I'm really taking care of myself. But if I offered you this Naked Juice, you would be, Ellie, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you would chug it down, and you're eating just as much sugar content as this Snickers bar, by the way. Okay. I have some other stuff here. I don't want to bog everybody down. I'll be really quick about something else that's really, really, yogurt. Yogurt is definitely a really nice go-to snack. Greek yogurt is very, very popular now. Okay. Greek yogurt is very high in protein content. I happen to love Greek yogurt. What I eat is just the plain, fat-free, plain, meaning there's no sugar. Whatever sugar content shows you on the label is sugar, naturally occurring sugars from milk. Okay. For instance, this Yoplait Greek 100, which is strawberry cheesecake flavored, has 8 grams of sugar. Not absolutely bad. If you had to make a choice on the run, this is not a terrible choice. Okay. It's not the first choice, but it's not a terrible choice. The first choice is to be prepared and have really good food with you. But if you had to grab something, this is not a bad choice. But here, for instance, is this other Oikos traditional Dannon yogurt, right? And lemon, it's Greek yogurt, just like the other one. So it must be good. We hear about Greek yogurt, right? Ellie said high protein content, etc. But this one here has 19 grams of sugar. So it's really, really important, folks, to look at your labels and to see, first of all, and we'll get into other contents later in different episodes. This episode is about sugar and about reducing your sugar intake, weaning off sugar. Really, really important to look at the labels. So important, okay, because you will make much better choices. If you go in blindly to eat something and you just read what's on the front, whether it says organic, whether it says gluten-free, whether it says all natural, whether it says protein, whether it says, smoothie, whether it says veggies, no sugar added. You saw what I showed you on those juices that said no sugar added, how much sugar they had. So please get educated. It's the first important thing, to get educated and learn how to read a label.
Right. So can I interrupt for a second?
Absolutely,
can I interrupt?
Man, please.
While we're on yogurt, I do want to touch on that a little bit. I'm not even sure how to pronounce your name, Fasir323, brought up Okios or Okios, or how do you pronounce that yogurt brand, 000. You've likely seen it, primarily black container, sleek looking, 000 on the front. First of all, if you do have something that doesn't have sugar added, like Eli's plain fat-free Greek yogurt, which is one that I recommend for my clients as well, then you are just dealing with the lactose sugars, the actual milk sugars that are in the product. And those sugars, although on a nutrition label they are classified as sugars, they are actually lower on the glycemic index. Now they're not like sweet potato low, but they're I believe they're like in the 60s, 60, 59, something like that. You can look it up. And so when you're comparing it to the sugar that the next brand over that's sweet, the strawberry cheesecake and the lemon meringue pie flavored yogurt that has literal sugar, or high fructose corn syrup or whatever they're using added to it, and again, Ellie brought up a good point. This stuff is disguised all over the place. And so you could get together with somebody and they can make all sorts of arguments on how, like, pure cane sugar and these different sweeteners, brown rice syrup is another one, that you can argue all day whether one's healthier than the other. But at the end, the end result in many cases are exactly the same. And so when you're dealing with something that doesn't have sugar added, like the plain fat-free Greek yogurt, or plain yogurt, or the 000 yogurt is actually sweetened with stevia. I'll go in real quick because there was another question about sweeteners. Guido Conroy said, what about sweeteners, sugar-free stuff? There's two parts. One, some of those sugar-free sweeteners have been proven to cause cancer. So that's, should be a concern. If it's not, then I don't know. And so things like Sweet and Low Equal, they have their own known, downsides to our body, even if they are proven 0 calorie. Now, one of the things that does happen, and I've seen a couple studies that had actual, again, I don't have references. That is something that you and I, Ellie, are going to have to put into place going forward, is if we state the stuff, we have to bring our references with us. And we will do that. Sorry, folks. I have seen a couple studies where stevia is the only calorie-free sugar out there that does not invoke an insulin response. Again, we are talking about raising our blood glucose levels and our insulin pulsing through our bodies. Now, even if this stuff doesn't happen, some of these sweeteners, Sweet and Low Equal, they provide an insulin response. And so your body is going through this chemical process, even with some of these 0 calorie sweeteners. Now, stevia is the only one that does not do that from a couple studies that I've seen. So that's why stevia is my go-to recommendation if you are going to be adding sweeteners to your stuff. That is also why, and again, this might not be Ellie's opinion, it's my opinion. And this is what they use in the 000 yogurts as well, which, it's fine in my book. And
I'm gonna chime in here just a second, Jeremy, because I think this is really, really important as well. And it's not a matter of me disagreeing with you or not. I agree with you 100% actually, and not just because everybody's on here, but I really truly do agree with you. The only thing is that I think that when we're going from a complete sugar overload, when we're addicted to sugars, drinking 2 liters of Coke a day, when we're going to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or whatever coffee place you go to and have, your coffee with full cream and, 5 tablespoons of sugar or whatever it is that you put in there.
Right.
And if you start making adjustments like I did, and I'm going to give you a very specific example, okay? And here's, if you guys have something to write down with, here comes a couple of the tips, okay? So how I got rid of soda was I started drinking 3/4 of a glass of regular soda and 1/4 of Diet Coke, just to kind of even out the flavor. A week later, I did half a glass of regular soda and half a glass of diet soda. Okay, you get the gist of it, until I was down to regular, just plain diet soda. And I drank diet soda for quite a bit just because of the bubbly taste or whatever. And then I started drinking water, and I rarely drink diet sodas. I do from time to time, very, very rarely, maybe once a month, I'll have a soda here or a soda there, but very, very rarely. But that's the way I weaned off of it. I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm a Dunkin' Donuts fan. Okay, I'm not a Starbucks fan. So I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I used to have an extra large coffee with extra cream and sugar, however much sugar I needed to make it sweet. Okay. When I started on my weight loss journey, I knew that I had to get rid of that sugar. So I replaced it with Splenda. Okay. I used to put 6 Splendas in my extra large coffee. Okay. Today I have just a large coffee and I have 1 Splenda and I use regular non-dairy creamer that I bring myself. I ask for the coffee black and I put in this non-dairy, coffee mate creamer. Again, not great stuff, but it doesn't make me gain weight. And I have to make choices in my life that are right for me. Okay?
Absolutely.
So I use Splenda still, but I used to use 5 and 6 Splendas in 1 coffee. Now I use 1. Okay.
Yeah.
People say, when I post on my Facebook page and I give suggestions and I say something about Splenda, I put something in Splenda in one of my recipes or something, the Splenda police comes out and attacks me.
I know.
And folks, I am not an organic guru.
Nope.
I'm here to tell you how I was able to lose, significant amount of weight and how I've been able to maintain it and be healthy and fit at the age of 46, making the choices that I make. Is Splenda good for you? Probably not. Is it better for you than having, regular soda? Maybe. If you're using it in the right way and you're using it to wean off of regular sugar, I'm all for it. That's my opinion. 150%. Okay.
Absolutely.
So is it bad? Are there studies that it says it causes cancer? Man, I used to be a two-pack a day cigarette smoker.
Right, me too.
So, you have to make choices in life and you have to wean off of them. If you go cold turkey, most of the time it doesn't work. So
right.
That's
chiming in on that. And I've had the Splenda police. I've had the spray butter police. I've had and it's unbelievable what people will try to press on you. But you're right. I share the same opinions. We're educating. We're telling how we choose to manage our life, how you choose to manage your life and what goes in your body. It's up to you. But I will say, I will still once in a while go to Starbucks. I'm not a huge Starbucks person, but I will use the Splenda as well. 1 or 2 Splenda in a coffee. It's not like we're scooping it from the bag into our mouth. And so that's not really that big of a deal. I also feel that if you are so against if the Splenda police, they better be riding their bike to work on back trails, not breathing in car exhaust. They better be only using all natural, detergents and cleaners in their house. They better be wearing face masks so that they're not breathing in dust particles. To come down on somebody else for using a Splenda packet in a recipe when we are all openly exposing ourselves to toxins in every other second of our life. I just don't get it. It's not, again, I'm not the tree hugging, all organic Sprouts shopper that is going to.
You're not.
I'm not. No, sadly, I still drink a diet soda once in a while. I like to put rum in it, and I enjoy it. And you know what? Life is about balance. And so anyway, let's move on. Did you have? And I think I heard maybe you announced this earlier. Did you have cereal, or you had something else that you were going to show? Because I'd love to touch on that.
Yes, I actually have a couple of breakfast items. You spoke about rolled oats, right? So these are very, very convenient. These are these little packets that come ready to serve. I think all you have to do is put boiling water in it or boiling milk, whatever you want. And, this is Real Medley's super grains. They make you super strong. Yeah. It must be, right? Again, guys, I'm being a little sarcastic here just to make a point that these are companies, and I'm not this anti-Monsanto. I'm not a tree hugger either, or all of this stuff. And I'm definitely not, a basher on all these companies and stuff. But I'm just trying to make a little light of a situation that happens to be pretty serious. These companies are out for business, okay? And then there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as we are conscious of the fact that they're out for business and they're trying to sell us products, these are all selling tactics, okay? Super grains. Yes, oatmeal is a super grain, absolutely. But I can guarantee you that in this banana walnut oatmeal, okay? It says multigrain oatmeal plus diced bananas, chopped walnuts, brown sugar, quinoa, and flax. Quinoa, I've heard of that. It's good. Flax, I've heard of that. That's good, right? So it must be good. But if you go here, you look, and there's 19 grams of sugar, folks. 19 grams of sugar in your breakfast. You know what that's going to do to you? It's going to make you feel really great for about 10 minutes. And then about 1 minute after that, you're going to start crashing. So I can even hear the sugar in here. I can feel the clumps. I'm shaking, and not just there's actual a clump. I can feel it. And here's another cereal. This is another great honey bunches of oats. But I want you guys to see right here, really big.
Yeah.
Whole grains. So it must be so awesome for us, over 2/3 of your day's whole grain. Wow. We can knock it out in, let's see, 1 cup of this cereal, which is absolutely not horrible. There's, 12 grams of sugar in 1 cup. Okay. It's a lot of sugar in a cup of cereal. I can guarantee you 1 cup of this cereal will not satisfy me for breakfast.
Me too.
Yeah. I promise you, it will not satisfy me. 1 cup, a half a cup dry oatmeal with some protein powder, that does satisfy me, because it's a different process, by the way. And I don't want to get into the whole details of that, but carbohydrates on this, really, really high. In general, not a horrible choice, but not a good choice, to be honest with you. Again, because of the sugar content. And these are the things that we need to start getting rid of in our lives. These little things that we think are good for us, that we think are, the healthier choices. There are much more healthier choices in cereals and breakfast ideas, breakfast recipes, breakfast foods than cereal, by the way. And we have to get educated. Jeremy and I have the rest of this year, every Sunday, we'll be on here with you from 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Every week, we're going to be bringing you new material, new insights. Part of that is going to be about, foods. It's going to be motivation, all different types of stuff, exercise, how to do particular exercises. What are the best exercises? What are the best foods? Alternative to foods when you eat out, just stuff on motivation, psychologically, how we feel. So please tune in with us every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. All this information, more of this information is going to come out to you. So we look forward to seeing you tonight. We're getting into the top of the hour here, and I love this because the time flies by when we're with you folks. We definitely want to take some questions, but I want to specifically mention really, really, really quickly again. Please, if you don't fall into the trap of, oh my God, stevia is bad, Truvia is bad, sweet and low, whatever. Is it bad? Listen, that's a topic for another conversation. If you're a heavy sugar eater and you need to use those to start weaning off of it, my opinion, my personal opinion, and what I used in my personal experience was that I definitely suggest it. If you were my son, which happens to be sitting on my right, listening intently to me this evening, and he sits here every night, 13-year-old boy, really wants to get knowledge. Folks, I suggest it to him. If I suggest it to my own child, I promise you that what I'm offering you, what I'm giving you as an opinion, is not just, off the top of my head. So I beg of you, look into making alternatives into what you eat, especially sugar, and don't fall into the trap of listening to, everybody and saying this is bad, cancer causing. You have to make your own choices, please. One last thing. Next week, we want to let you know what we're going to be talking about next week. We want you to please invite your friends, invite your family. This is only going to get better the more people that we touch and we affect. Okay, this is all a paying it forward. So again, we don't charge a penny for this. Totally free. We don't ever plan to charge a penny for this. We're going to be on here every day, every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Next week, McDonald's on a diet.
I can't wait for that one.
McDonald's on a diet, making the best choices under the worst circumstances. So we're going to be touching upon what choices to make in restaurants, fast food restaurants. If you're caught in an airport, if you're caught, at a convenience store and you need to eat, the best choices you can make under the worst circumstances. That's next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Jeremy, I don't know if you have anything else. If you do, please add. If not, we can go to some questions.
No, yeah, let's go to some questions only because, I don't want this to turn into something where we're long past 6, or 9 your time. But I think it's time we get to some questions. I could talk for a very long time about what we just talked about tonight. So, we can even, I'll be posting there was a question about a replay or a whatever of this. Yes, like all of our blabs, we'll be posting them to YouTube and then to our Facebook pages. So you'll be able to do a replay of this. If you happen to come in late or whatever, you can visit us on our Facebook pages, and we'll type those in the comment box. But let's get to some questions here. Is it too premature to ask your opinion regarding the correct times to eat carbs before or after workout? That's going to vary greatly based on the person, in my opinion. I do think that the best time to eat carbohydrates or the large portion of your carbohydrates should be surrounding your most active time of the day. Carbohydrates are a fuel source. That's pretty much it. And so eating those when you're actually going to be using them as a fuel source is my opinion, and it's what I give to my clients. We don't necessarily need to carb up to go to bed. We don't need to carb up to sit at a desk all day. But we certainly do, in my opinion, need to carb up, and the effects of dealing with insulin and protein synthesis and these things that happen when we are eating proper foods can greatly increase your recovery from your workouts, your performance in your workouts, and your overall results. And so I think placing your carbohydrates around a workout, I am in no way going to spit out how many grams of carbs you should be eating, because you will run with it, and that's not tailored for you. So I don't want to throw numbers out here and have people go, oh, okay, well, Jeremy told me I should be eating 30 grams or 50 grams or 100 grams, and so I'm not going to do that. Thoughts on Truvia? I touched on that with the stevia comment. Truvia is a stevia base. Like most of them, they'll bind the stevia to like a maltodextrin or something like that, or some other compound which will come through as carbohydrates. So when you're looking at the nutrition label on Truvia or any of the off-brand stevias, you're going to see that it has a small amount of carbohydrates in there. Even Splenda has a small amount of carbohydrates in it. That's because the actual sucralose is bound to maltodextrin. Sucralose is extremely potent. If you ever have, I've had the opportunity to taste real, just pure sucralose, and it's crazy potent. And so what they do is they bind it essentially to something that has a little bit more oomph, because if you dumped a stevia packet in your coffee without being bound to maltodextrin, you wouldn't think anything came out. It'd be like a dust. And so to have a little bit more substance, like you're used to putting, sugar in your coffee and actually seeing the granules, they bind it. So Truvia is the same way. Truvia is fine, in my opinion. Again, stevia base, and that's my preferred 0-calorie sweetener. Himalayan sea salt. You touched on the pink salt.
Yeah. I kind of just threw it out there. It's really not part of this episode, but it's my fault. I did put it out there. I used it as an example to pretty words that companies are using to sell products.
Yeah.
Right? Himalayan sea salt, pink Himalayan sea salt, is salt that comes from a particular part of the world in the Himalayas, and it happens to be pink. It's salt. Plain and simple. It's not any healthier. It's not any less than sodium. Nothing. It's a pretty word. That's all it is. It's and it looks pretty. It's pink, right? So is it okay? It's as okay as having regular salt. So this is not a salt topic, but yes, it's not that it's okay. Well, yes, you should definitely eat pink Himalayan sea salt because it's good for you. It wouldn't be any different than me telling you to have Morton's table salt.
Right.
It's the same thing.
And I think going into kind of a not, I don't want to go off topic too much, but so many people, and I'm sure if you've fallen into this, type yes in the box or give us props or something. But if you've fallen into this where you're looking at your life and you're thinking that the answer has to be something like, if only I switched from stevia to Truvia, or if only I switched from white table salt to pink Himalayan salt, then all of a sudden, the heavens are going to open and I won't have weight loss or I won't have weight problems and I won't. No, if you go back and look at the other two blabs that we have done, or if you follow us for more than a day, you will likely see us saying we have to change our lifestyle. There is more to a healthy lifestyle than which salt choice you're going to make, or which packet you're going to put on your coffee at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. We are talking about changing massive things in our life, more massive than others for some of you, but it's the combination of changing these things one step at a time, integrating small little steps here and there. But I guarantee switching from white salt to pink Himalayan salt you're likely not gonna you're not gonna feel any difference. We've got to look at the bigger picture and identify the big roadblocks that you are creating for yourself, like drinking soda. And somebody had said something like she stopped, I believe it was a woman, stopped drinking soda, but now she drinks Starbucks at 300 calories for a small one every day. Well, you've essentially switched from smoking to chewing, like you've switched, swapped out one thing for another.
Right. That's important. That's important. Yeah. The change that we make is not a change from, one sugar to the other, from Coke to Pepsi. The idea is to make a better change, obviously a healthier change. And to top off this episode, we're talking about sugar, and the title of this episode is Immediate Weight Loss from This One Change.
Right.
And that is, I can promise you, especially the more weight you have to lose, the more weight you will lose if you start weaning off and eventually reduce sugar to a minimum.
Yes.
Promised from Ellie and from Jeremy.
Absolutely.
100%. We are living examples of that. So if there's one thing that you do this week, this month, is slowly, guys, please do not go cold turkey because you will fail, is start making small changes to reducing your sugar to eventually eliminating it as much as possible. You will lose the weight. We look forward to seeing you next week for McDonald's on a Diet, how to make the best choices in the worst circumstances. I'm Eli Sapharti, I'm co-host.
Jeremy Reid.
And we look forward to seeing you here next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks, guys. Really glad to have you here. Good night.
Good night.